Let's get into the big topic that will then lead to the crescendo of the Boston Bruins. Full-on fire sale happened. We talked a lot about it. We have a lot to say about it.
Read them all first.
First trade we saw was Trent Frederick.
Well, Coyle. Oh, you're doing linear order?
Yep.
Yep.
Then eventually we saw Coyle. We saw Carlo. We saw Marchand. Going down the list. Trade 1. Boston Bruins trade Trent Frederick with 50% salary retained to the New Jersey Devils in exchange for an unsigned draft choice, Peter Hauser. The New Jersey Devils trade Trent Frederick with that 50% salary retained to Edmonton in exchange for unsigned draft choice Shane LeChance. So, ultimately, Boston got a second-round pick for Trent Frederick. Next, Boston trades Max Jones, an unsigned draft choice Peter Hauser, to Edmonton in exchange for Max Wanner, St. Louis's second-round pick in 2025, owned by Edmonton, and Edmonton's own fourth-round selection in 2026. Next up, I'm going to go in order of importance here.
Okay.
Boston trades Justin Brazeau. Brazeau from the Bruins in exchange to the Minnesota Wild for Merritt Kuznetsov.
Great job.
Kuznetsov, yeah.
Yeah.
Merritt Kuznetsov and the return of the
Our
king,
old friend.
Jacob Lauko, and a 6th-round selection in the 2026 NHL draft. So, the wheels start moving. Then we saw the Charlie Coyle, which Chris announced.
Yep.
Then the first dagger.
Oh,
As far as like Bruins fans, how you feel? Like you lose Freddie, you're like, fuck, but he goes to Edmonton, you're like, all right, good. Like I like that fit for Edmonton. Hopefully he wins a cup there. That'd be great to see for Freddie. But you do look at it like Trent Frederick was a first-round pick, and then things haven't panned out, and we get a hopefully mid to high second-round pick back from him. Kind of hurts, but ultimately good trade. Lose Brazeau, who was a nice surprise this year.
He was.
Now, Brandon.
But I'll even say the Coyle one. You know, just like
Coyle hurt.
I was like, fuck, and I love him. Great guy.
Coyle hurt, but getting Casey Middlestat back with term
was nice, and just like you said about Freddie, I'm like, go win a cup in Colorado, baby. That's fucking awesome.
100%.
Yeah.
Also, like Zeller's good back, second-round pick good, you know, like that. Brandon Carlo traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs for Fraser Minton and a conditional first-round pick in the 2026 NHL draft and a 4th-round pick in the 2025 draft. Brandon Carlo to the Maple Leafs hurts.
Oh, dude, that's crazy.
But fantastic return. Fraser Minton is a great player. I think people have a lot of faith in him becoming a good second-line center in the NHL. And then we hear a lot about Brad Marchand. There were rumors of several teams, I think LA being the biggest one. We can confirm there was a trade on the table to LA that both teams had agreed to. Brad did not want to move his family that far away, which I totally understand. Ultimately, Brad Marchand said that he wanted the Florida Panthers if he were to get traded, which he made very fucking clear that he did not want.
Yep.
He's traded to the Florida Panthers with 50% salary retained for a conditional second-round pick. It becomes a first if Marchand appears in 50% of the Panthers' playoff games in the first 2 rounds. Let's first talk about Boston.
Yep.
And then let's talk about Marchand.
Okay.
Boston right now, I think if you look at the standings, are 4 points out of a wild card spot.
They are 3 points out, but
lots of games in hand.
played many more games than all the teams in.
Lots of games in hand.
And like 4 teams ahead of them. You'd have to jump 4 teams, which is a lot.
This is what's interesting about the Bruins. Again, games in hand only matter if you win. So currently they are 3 points out of a wild card spot. The players on this Boston Bruins team obviously are fighting to win. You think David Pastrnak and Jeremy Swayman want to miss playoffs? Do you think Charlie McAvoy doesn't want to get back in this lineup? You don't think they want to make the playoffs? Absolutely they do. So when you're the guys on this team and you look at this fire sale, including the betrayal of your captain and lifelong Bruin, Brad Marchand, you cannot be happy right now. That's all I'm going to say is these players cannot be happy. But at the same time, look at the lineup. Morgan Geekie, Pavel Zacha, David Pastrnak, Cole Koepke, Casey Middlestat, and Vinny Letarier. Kuznetsov. I just keep Kuznetsov.
Koozie.
Merritt Kuznetsov, Elias Lindholm, and Jacob Lauko, Johnny Beecher, Mark Kastelik, and Patrick Brown. That is not the lineup that any Bruins fan thought that they were going into the season
Dude,
with.
that's who I wanted Lindholm to have on his wings, on the third line. That's what I always dreamed of.
This team looks crazy when you think about the start of the year. Then don't forget, the Bruins also traded for Yoki Haru. Let's not completely ignore that. But right now, the D first lining is Zadorov and Yoki Haru, with Lohrei and Andrew Peeke, and then Witherspoon and Ian Mitchell. Yep. Obviously, Hampus and Charlie Mack are out of the lineup. What my point is 2 years removed from winning the President's Trophy, you obviously have the devastating loss to Florida. Then last year you beat Toronto, you lose to Florida again. This is not the roster that you thought you'd have.
Yeah.
The fact that David Pastrnak, Jeremy Swayman, and Charlie McAvoy are the only 3 players on this team who have been there for 5 years or longer is insane.
Correct.
And at the end of the day, dude, Don Sweeney said in his press conference, if I had done my job correctly, I wouldn't be making trades like this.
Yeah.
That is correct. And there are a lot of people who are like, good on him for saying that. And I say, nope. Not good on him. That's correct. I'm shocked he has a job. I'm shocked he has a job, and I'm shocked that he is in a position where the Jacobs family is publicly backing him and also letting him do what he just did, which to me means he ain't going anywhere.
Okay, yep.
I do not think you let your GM gut the team like you have just done, trade away Brad Marchand in the fashion that you did it if you're about to fire this guy.
Agree completely. Ignore the Brad of it for a second. We wanted this, though. Like,
I didn't want, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't want it, but I was
hate
like,
that we're here, but
this, dude, the Bruins have 0 prospects. They have 0 picks.
I wish they traded more people.
Like, you got to do something
Yep.
here. And yeah, now it looks like Morgan Geekie is going to get an extension.
Here comes the overpay for
like
Morgan
we
Geekie.
discussed, like, is it going to be an overpay?
Yeah.
Even with the cap going up, is that about to be an overpay? We'll see. So, yeah.
Okay, so I'm with you. Let's get to Brad. I rate the Bruins deadline pretty good, honestly, outside of the Brad thing, because I wanted this and whatever.
Yeah, I ultimately give the Bruins a B+ to an A- with the massive asterisks of you are scumbags.
Okay, so dude, here's what I want to get into. We got the actually, I got a million text messages, so I'm obviously not going to read all of them, but just this one made me laugh. My good buddy Nez, who you know, obviously, Dan, said, and he's a Panthers fan, admittedly, but he goes, dude, the Panthers have straight up murdered Boston and made them their Horcrux. Yeah. And I was like, that was actually a really funny way to say, text. Like, I have your soul is now in my possession now.
I really hate the Panthers killed the Boston Bruins takes. Like, you didn't.
Correct.
And
the bees killed the bees.
Yeah. But it does look that way.
Yep.
And I'll give
so the Marchand trade, the Marchand trade happened. We're on the road. Like you said, there's a million things going on. And we are hearing about the LA thing, and then something switches and we hear Florida.
Yeah. And
I think I even said to you, I looked right at you and I said, no fucking way. And not that I hate the Panthers. I actually don't hate the Panthers at all. And if Marchand was going to leave, I certainly want him to go somewhere great.
Yeah.
That he can make some money and win a cup, maybe. That'd be awesome. And there's something hilarious. You know, I can get over the fact that it's like, oh, they knocked us out. But there's just something hilarious about him and Bennett, and like, what a good ad for
I don't know
team.
if you saw, but Bennett was asked in an interview, I think it was after practice today. They were like, how has it been? And he was like, the second we added Brad to the team group chat, the first thing he said was chirping everybody.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's amazing. Like, it's perfect. It's exactly what you'd want from him. It's how you break the ice. And it's immediately how we were all like, well, he's going to fit in like a fucking glove.
Did you see his comment on the Carlo trade?
Yeah. Pigeon.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, the initial thing we heard was it was a second-round pick. And I was like, come on, dude. Are you fucking kidding me? It becomes a first if Marchand appears in 50% of the Panthers playoff games in the first 2 rounds. So they have to make it 2 rounds, and he has to play. Yeah. Presumably he will.
Which is terrifying, given that is something that both teams agreed to. It makes you feel like, Jesus, that
he could be hurt.
He could be very hurt.
He could be hurt.
Which is scary.
So I'm hoping that it turns into a first round for the B's sake. But once the initial dust settled, I was like, okay, I'm rooting for him, and it feels like they had probably had talks of, would you be down to get traded somewhere? And it probably went very amicably, and he's out. And I'm happy. Dude, then we get to this weekend today.
As far as the timeline, like, we knew that was not the case.
Yep.
Like, we knew as it was going down that this was not something that he was happy about.
And you see Brad's interviews in his full Panther gear, talking about how much he appreciates the Boston organization and wishes something could come out. I actually couldn't believe how complimentary he was of.
Dude, this is what I'm saying. Like, people, even people who hated him, the last few years, like, you're seeing what an incredible person he is, what a consummate pro he is. You have any idea how easily he could have sewered everybody? And yeah, he's just the best about it.
And dude, his interview today, legitimately, with him choking up, I got emotional just watching the interview. Tom Brady's probably my favorite athlete of all time. He played for the Bucks, and I was super bummed when he was off the Patriots, but I was like, okay, well, I'll just go root for Tom over here. I wasn't like near tears. And something about Brad just processing this in Panthers gear. And I'm not even chirping the Panthers, I just mean in any other gear.
Yeah.
Just processing the how proud he was to have done what he did in that black and gold sweater. I was like, this is not happening. I cannot believe this.
Yeah.
And then to compound that with the reports that were like, listen, Brad and the team had a face-to-face discussion. They were offering 2, Brad wanted 3. The team got to 3 and there was still a money gap. And then Brad said, let's have a face-to-face fucking meeting and get this done. I'm willing to compromise. And the Bees just go, no. And now you're gone, Florida. Is appalling to me.
It's disgusting.
It's disgusting, yeah.
Because frankly, here's how I feel. You are one of the greatest Bruins of all time. You can still play. The fact that Boston was willing to go 3 years means that they feel he can still play too. And now the player and the team doctors are the only people who really know what's going on with the guy's body. But the fact that 3 years was agreed upon, I think, is a phenomenal sign for his belief in his ability to play as well as the team's. I think the fact that he wants to stay, and we have reports of a 3-year, $6.3 million offer from the Bruins, that Brad was like, that's far off the mark. Elliot Friedman reported there was a big gap. I think that has a lot to do with the cap going up. I'm so sorry for how often we say that, but like Patrice Bergeron came back 1 year, $3 million.
Yeah.
The fact that about to be 37 tomorrow, Brad Marchand is like, I want more than I'm currently making. Says a lot about his belief in himself and a lot about where the cap is going to be. But when you look at it and you look at the Bruins cap right now, if he's like, if we talk about that big gap, like what could that possibly be? Like, was he asking for 7.5? Like, even if he is, I'm like, it's like a bit over $1 million than what your cap is currently. Like, for him, yeah, I get it. The fact that he asked for a sit-down face-to-face meeting with Don Sweeney and Cam Neely, got it, and just said, I'm willing to budge. I'm asking you to be willing to budge too. And they said, fuck you. That is insane to me.
Dude, it stings.
And ultimately, Chris, everyone goes, well, if you weren't going to give him that contract, you got to get something for him. When it's a conditional second-round pick, that at best is going to be, if he plays 50% into 2 rounds, like, it's going to be...
It's a bad pick.
Yeah, 26 or so, something like that. Take it. I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't want it. Like, I'd rather you go not fucking trade him like this and just get to summer. And if you can't come to terms in the summer, we're in the same spot. And frankly, to me, it looks less bad.
Him walking for free?
Yes.
I kind of
It definitely looks less bad. It's like,
and
I think the Bruins front office point is like, well, if we were going to get to that point, then give me a 26 overall pick.
Yeah.
If it gets that, or give me a, second round pick, whatever. But ultimately, I'm like, you couldn't get something done, dude. This guy so desperately is like, I don't want to go. So during the trade deadline, trade deadline day, he's like, he was not with the team. He's in Boston. He's like, give me a sit down meeting. Yeah. And they're even after that, they're like, nope, can't get anything done.
Here's my two closing thoughts on this. He has made per career earnings $72 million.
Yeah.
Like we just said, he probably got 36 of that,
Yeah.
35 million.
Yeah.
That is a lot of money.
Sure.
That's plenty of money. So to be fair to the front office, I'm kind of surprised that he needed so much more than 6.3 that there was a quote unquote big gap. And he even, like, theoretically there was some compromise. Point being, he could have come back for 3 years at $3 million and been like, I have plenty of money.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of surprised, even with the cap going up, that he wasn't down to do that.
Yeah.
Or taking the 6.
Yeah.
Like, that feels like plenty to me. To be fair to the front office, it's not like the front office offered 1 and Brad's like, are you fucking kidding me? They offered him $6 million. So I just want that out there. But on the other side, and where I feel it much more strongly, this is the type of guy that, as a fan, I'm speaking as a fan here, you just pay and get rinsed on this contract in 3 years because whatever. Like, if you go, yeah, Brad, here's 3 at 7.5. And in 2 years from now, we're like, fuck, I wish Brad was off the books, but whatever. This is the type of player you just do that for. And I know we kind of just didn't say that last week, and I know that's bad business and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, dude, you can't do that to him.
I agree.
You have to just pay him and shut the fuck up.
I look at guys like Bergeron and Tuukka Rask doing those streams, like guys who just played their whole career, just retired bees. Like, just Brad belongs there.
Yep.
He belongs there. And I'm getting too emotional. My whole thing is telling fans to be...
I know, same, yep.
To be less emotional. And ultimately, do we think that Florida is going to make it 2 rounds and hopefully Brad plays 50? I mean, if he's healthy, he's going to play fucking every single game. Yeah, I do think that's going to happen. And, if this pick turns into something between 24 and 32, and you go into next year's draft and you have 2 first-round draft picks, like, that's something that you're like, well, actually, it's not even.
I think it's 26,
It's 26,
right?
yeah. It's not even next year. So, either way.
Yeah.
You get that first-round draft pick and you're like, oh, yeah, that's nice. It's nice that we have that. And that's why this is a business. And that's why it's, you're happy that you have that down the road. But I always think about your culture. It's like, what do players say? And I'm not going to lie. I don't think I'm being dramatic here, but when guys know that it's a business. Everyone knows that. They always say this. Brad says it in his press conference. Everyone who gets traded like this, they say it. I know it's a business. I know it's a business. But I just think if you're a free agent that's meeting with the Boston's front office this coming summer, next summer, if you're a current player on the team negotiating a new contract, you think about this shit.
Yep.
This is stuff you have
Absolutely.
in your head when they're going, oh, yeah, we're a family, blah, 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 blah. Who is it that said that? Ladder, right? He was like, everyone says, oh, we're a family. You're not a fucking family.
Yeah.
It's a company.
Yep.
And when they're giving you their pitch, you're out of your mind if you don't think in the back of these guys' heads is, well, they fucking took Marchand out behind the shed and put a bullet in his skull.
Yep. After he specifically asked you not to.
Asked for a face-to-face meeting, and the preface of the meeting was, I'm willing to budge.
Yep.
I'm asking you to as well. This is stuff that players think about, players see, and it's crazy. There's a reason we're talking about it this long. There's a reason every media outlet is talking about this. Elliot Friedman goes on TV to discuss how wild this is.
Yep.
This looks like fucking shit.
Especially, Dan, I think I read, I think it might have been Marina actually on Barstool, said, it just was a good point. He has taken so many team-friendly deals throughout his career, too.
It's the only thing he's done.
So it's not like, at this point, if you go, well, we're fucking dragging you over whatever the gap was. I'm like, well, certainly you owe him that from the fucking 14 years previous, dude, where you weren't paying him that.
He and Berg were the same. Like, so they're just both guys who fucking battled. Both second-round picks, too, I think, right? And
I'll be right.
Both wore the C. Both took team-friendly deals. Both kept the culture alive. Like, the culture that was built by Zdeno Chara and Mark Savard that's passed down to Patrice Bergeron, it was also passed down to Brad Marchand. The reason for the current culture of the Boston Bruins that people like to talk about so highly all the time is because guys like Brad exist there. And
was third rounder.
Sorry?
Third rounder.
Marshy was a third rounder, yeah. It's tough. I think it is such a tough look, and yeah, I've said, I've gone on Twitter, a bunch of people talking about the dream, right? They were talking about that with Rantanen too. The dream of, oh yeah, he goes to Florida, maybe he wins a cup, and then he re-signs with Boston. There is a world where that could still happen, but after hearing all this information and seeing that press conference, do you think that's going to happen?
It's a dagger, dude. It's a dagger that I just didn't see coming. We had discussed his trade, and I think we both said I don't expect he gets traded, but I was very aware it was a possibility. And I'm not even mad about the team. I've said this 5 times. I don't care that it's Florida. I've seen so many of my friends get so mad about that. It's not about that he went to Florida to me. In fact, like if that's where he wanted to go, then fucking good.
I don't give a fuck, man. And again, I am unemotional. Yeah. I am not a Bruins fan anymore. I'm a fan of human beings. Yeah. Obviously, I love the Bruins, but like, I don't give a fuck where he went. I wouldn't have cared if he went to Toronto. Yeah. Truly. Yep. Like, I would have been like, yeah, you grew up a Toronto fan. Hope he wins a fucking cup. I am such a Florida Panthers fan, even more than I already was now, because I'm like, I want to watch Brad Marchand lift that trophy. It'll be the most emotional thing ever.
So yeah, it was just such a dagger to hear how he felt. What did we say? Whatever Brad wants.
Whatever Brad wants, and you did
what he wanted.
He very politely asked for one thing, and you spit in his open mouth, and he didn't ask for it.